for Martin J.
I think regrets and appreciation for his longevity.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know too many people that would work for 4 months for free. That was back in the day when there was no problem rehiring an IPERS-covered employee, but you just couldn't pay him for 4 months. And he just came in and worked for free for 4 months.
I'll second that motion with regrets.
Okay, it's been moved and second to accept the resignation with regrets and for an appreciation of his longevity. You have a question? Would you think he should go a little longer?
Did you say what the results of the closed session?
Okay, you hold that thought just there.
Okay.
There's been a motion and a second to accept the retirement. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. In regard to, for Christ's sakes, I'm not available.
Dave, you said the
Uh,
31st.
You could make a copy of
In
it.
regard to the closed session, there was no action taken. Okay?
You said the 31st. You're gonna have a little copy.
I think so. We haven't formally planned it yet, but
Just shoot me an email or something, or
Yeah.
call.
Yeah.
That way we'll know.
Maybe we can have like a little breakfast thing or something like that. A breakfast pizza or something.
Yeah, remember, we have a meeting that morning.
That's a Monday morning.
You don't want to eat too much, you could maybe doze off during the
Well,
meeting.
unless you have it early, and get us good. Okay.
Have a cup of coffee before I come here then.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, we'll just come
That could
early.
work out, you know, about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, you got drains?
Good old drains. I thought we were done with these, but we're not. Joey Schoen reported a couple holes in a wet place on drain 72 in section 36 of Richland Township. We don't have the best records on that. It was showing all open ditch and none of it's open ditch. That's because we didn't know the size of the tile line, and I think I've got to dig around back in here and see if I can find some more information. We have a map, but the map does not say how big the tile is. It's in the waterway. I think we can.
Boy, you got a lot of drain action there.
This was another one that had some odd stuff going on with it. It didn't have the extension on it, so I made some copies of it.
Oh,
This next one, Brian Redazel called in to report a hole over drain 26 and extension in section 33 of Sheridan. The original maps we have, and the maps on the aerial photos don't show that extension, so I just hand drew it in. It's kind of straight west of Litterdale. That's the drain that drains Litterdale, and later on they put a big tile extension out there, ends up in a 24-inch where it dumps in drain 23, and I think this is all in set aside so he can we can get out there and have at that one too. The rest of these are just extra copies. Looks impressive though.
ooh. I thought those were all action.
Yeah.
If there's no other questions or comments, I'd make a motion to approve the two drains, 72 and 26.
Second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to repair the two drains. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Okay, motor grade quotes updates.
Should be enough for everybody there.
You got for 125?
Pardon?
You got for 125?
125, yeah, we'll take two.
Or 325?
Yeah, I say 120, we'll take
Oh.
two.
I'm way off on that.
It's kind of confusing. This is kind of a mishmash of stuff, but to come at our number, but he attempted to do it. He put auto articulation on the machine, which is a $2,500 option. They actually give it to you for 250 hours for free, and then if you want to keep it, it's $2,500. So that was different than the prior machine. we can take that off the machine since it's a machine feature. The new snowplow lift group, since we wouldn't be trading in, we usually rebuild the trade-in, and there's about $3,660 between rebuilding the lift group or a new lift group. So that wasn't in the first one. And then there was a price increase of about 1.5%. He's proposed to take the 2,500 off the 321 to lower the price of the grader, and then give us a parts credit of $4,314 in parts, since we've had a pretty difficult year with issues, to say the least. A couple of transmissions and a number of other minor problems and here's kind of the math put down. We'd actually be paying $321,674. You see that highlighted area there. It would be the list price that he had on the grader less the $2,500 for the auto articulation. So it would give us the $321,674, which would be the selling price. The $3,660 is the difference for the snow lift group, the added value of that, which you could take it off and show it's taken off, and then the parts and service credit would come back to us through parts and service and get us to that number. So
So he did come to that number.
he did come to that number.
Creatively.
Creatively,
So-
as usual.
I wasn't here, but who's the vendor?
Cat, Ziegler Cat.
This parts and service accounts credit, is that machine specific or is it overall?
That's overall.
General.
Yeah.
So
good.
we still want to write a check for 13,700, or do we have to write it for?
We'd write a check for $321,674. So you can kind of, in the, I guess, the middle one, you could see the $324,174 was the price, less $2,500 for the auto articulation, which wasn't on the machine, less $3,660 for the snowplow lift group, which is a complete new one instead of a used rebuilt one that's on the machine, so we're getting that, and then less the parts credit. So it's quite creative.
Is there a capital expense problem here then by doing it one way and then getting credit back for like maintenance? Because we're on kind of two different accounts.
I
don't think that
Yeah,
would be an
his all
issue.
comes out of one.
One?
Yeah, his
Okay.
capital is, you don't pay for your motor graders out of your capital.
No, we don't.
Okay,
So-
okay.
We pay them for them out of the 600 series of our
Oh,
accounting
okay.
series, and we also pay for the parts on the 600 series on down the
So
line.
it's-
There is a
Same
line for
account.
new equipment, and then there's another line that
Okay.
has the parts in what this would come out of. So it's kind of like getting the fuel credit, or I don't know how you want it. I believe they want to keep the history going of their list price and their price increases and all that, so in case anybody calls us to compare, we'll have a comparable number to other people.
So how do we get this 3,660 credit? I mean, that goes to against parts or what?
The 4314, you mean?
No,
No, I
3660.
understand that, but 3660, it says credit for
36
increased value. How do we realize that?
We're getting a new lift group. I suppose we could come down and look at it rather than a used one.
Oh, so you're going to get a new
We're
one
gonna
on?
have, because we'll have to have a new one, because we typically take the one off the trade and put it on the new one. They rebuild the cylinder, and there's about that much difference between a brand new one and.
Okay.
So we are realizing that if they didn't put it on, we'd have to go out and buy that. And it's over $6,000 to buy it, or $3,660 more than what it is to rehab an old one.
Okay, I was wondering how that came into play.
Well, that's, yeah, I was, okay, he explained it to me, and I tried to digest it.
The parts and service account credit, that 4314, it's like a rebate as you need it. Is there a time that we have to use it?
I don't think so, no. He
So-
mentioned no time.
So for
We won't
sure
have-
that'll get used, just,
The way we buy parts from those guys, probably use it up in a half a month.
It's not gonna be.
One zing,
It's not
it's
gonna
gone.
be trouble.
All right,
Yeah.
so I'm not gonna worry about that anymore.
No, Becky was showing me the Ziegler file, it's about that thick. We've got all our delivery receipts in there too, which really makes it thicker. But anytime we get a part or whatever, she's got to check it off to make sure that it jives.
Well, I'm pretty happy with this. I think our negotiation got us a couple pretty good credits here that we will,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Realize.
$8,000 off,
yeah.
so.
Just about. What's
And don't hurt
the-
to ask.
That's what I was getting at, though, just the actual check we're gonna write is 321, but we're getting credits.
Yeah, we got to make that real clear that is the actual check that we're
The
going
selling
to write.
price will be $321,674.
321,674,
We'll
yeah.
realize the
Purchasing
other
price.
That'll be the original
savings.
price, less that $2,500 for that auto articulation feature that we're not going to enable.
If this gets approved, what's the availability?
That's a good question. I asked him about a US-made machine. I told him that we'd prefer to have a US-made machine, and I think we might have to wait for one to get one made in Alabama, which I didn't realize, and I'll have to write.
Well, they're made in Alabama.
Yeah.
We wrote that home.
Brazil or Alabama.
Who's driving it home?
I don't know.
Will they take us down there and let us see it's
Factory
building?
tour.
Yeah, factory tour.
Drive it off the assembly line?
Drive it off the assembly line. Dave can do that.
We probably better not ask.
I think so, I think Dave could do that.
I'd have to take a couple weeks off, drive it home.
Imagine how much fuel that burn, huh?
Get back to that working for nothing deal.
Did you guys feel pretty strongly about wanting an American-made one? I thought it was a good idea.
I would
think so, too.
I would like that too, and there's no price difference, just so
No,
we'd have to
no,
wait a little bit.
he seems to think that it maybe costs him more, but I don't really care. Maybe it shouldn't. And sounds like I gotta jump through some hoops, writing a letter saying that we want one, and it was in our specs. But I'm okay doing that.
Okay.
So, that's that.
Do we need to formally approve this then, Dave?
If you're okay with it.
That's your recommendation? then?
Yeah,
Also move to approve the purchase of the motor grader for $321,674.
I'll second that.
You want to note those credits in the future?
They'll be noted in the minutes.
Okay, good enough. Then moved and seconded, is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried. Box culvert.
Box culverts, I can find the certificate of completion. Richards Construction completed the 3 box culverts that they had, the one up by Breda, the one over by Larry Sawyer's, and then the one down by Ralph Box, south of Glidden, between Glidden and Coon Rapids. That was the last one completed, and it was completed on June 19th. That's the date we have on the certificate of completion. There's a place for me to sign, and then there's a place to have the chairman sign. It's kind of a dual, it's made for city and county, but right here, midship in the, we're real happy with Richard's work. Just a real conscientious contractor. Did more than was asked of him and did it in a real good way.
Yeah, the landowner on that Timber Avenue, of course, is my dad, and, yeah, he got along with those guys great, they had some issues.
Yeah.
Worked them all out.
Your dad was extremely cooperative too. He really made it easy for us.
They were appreciative that they just had one landowner to work with. Sometimes they have
Yeah.
4,
Because they do make quite a mess outside of
Yeah.
the right of way. And
Yeah.
he didn't have
It
any
worked out
big
good.
problem with that.
I'd make a motion to sign the certificate of completion for the box culvert projects.
I'll second that motion.
Then moved and seconded to approve the certificate of completion for the 2 box culverts. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried.
Road discussions, I got just a update. We've got an ad in the paper advertising for an employee for an operator one. I think we're gonna run that a couple of weeks, see what we get. We're waiting on Henningson's, our asphalter, to come back from Guthrie County. I think they run into some trouble down there, and we're not quite sure. We think it's gonna be next week by the time they get back here to work on our work. Hallett's is telling me the third week in July, they'll have material available at the Boyer Pit. And not quite sure what to get for that. I think Crawford will probably haul theirs out. I haven't talked to Paul, but they usually get a lot of trucks hauling on theirs, and it gets to be pretty crowded in there. We may wind up having to haul some of ours out. I think they'll let us keep 20,000 tons up there of the 55 or 56 they're gonna make for us. But we may have to.
How many ton are they gonna make?
55 or 56. They've got 15 left on the contract from 2 to 3 years ago, depending upon how you figure it, and 40,000 left on the contract, I guess, 2 years ago, 1 to 2 years ago.
And when do you think you're gonna want us to add that out in?
I think he'll let us leave 20 up there. Hopefully, maybe we can get to leave a little more up there over the winter, so right next spring, we can come back again and haul out of there in the spring, a little earlier part of the year, because this apparently is their schedule to where they're making this gravel about this time of year, and we would prefer to haul it out earlier in the year.
Well, and as I told you guys about the one pit site we're having some issues with, I'm currently trying to locate some spots, and I've got one guy I'm talking to. He's supposed to give me a comment back yet today, and I have not heard, so.
We'll anxiously await for that, yeah.
Yeah, because, this will be out front right away, the Canadian pit's probably not gonna be available to us. It will be, but it will be short-term, and I don't see piling gravel, we're gonna have to move it again.
No, I don't either. It's too expensive to.
So I am working for another site down there. And I think I've got a good chance.
Gonna kinda have to wing this a little bit with, if we do any contract hauling out of there, if we can work it, because we've left in Arcadia, Maple River, Roselle, a little bit in Washington, and in East, we've got room for contract gravel where we could haul. We've been hauling out of the Finley pit in there with their own trucks, but we could certainly haul that out of that Boyer pit and put anywhere from 14 to 25,000 on the road, depending on how it went. But then again, it's getting later than what we'd like. That's all I can really think of right at the moment.
Materials come in for the Arcadia shed?
They did.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
I was by the lookout pit yesterday. My goodness, they have a pile of material there.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, that's, I think it's Sac and Ida have got some left. The way I understand from talking to Monica from Stratford Gravel, that the lookout pit is pretty well played out.
Topped out.
Topped out.
Oh, there's a
yeah.
lot of stuff sitting there.
And I will say this, that Dave, that last haul that we had with that lookout stuff, I went and looked at that on the road. I wish it all looked like that.
Yeah, it looks pretty good that way, Rock. and it
I
does.
mean, even if
The gravel was pretty
there's
coarse.
good stone in the gravel itself without the white rock in it.
Being last in there and getting the stuff off the bottom of the pit, where a lot of times the good stuff.
That's where it's
really is.
at,
The
huh?
rocky stuff is a lot of times at the bottom, and that happened on that, so that was just luck of the draw there.
Okay.
Hear from Murphy? Or
I have heard from Murphy, and I think he could be coming in the next week or two.
Okay.
Is that the crusher?
With the crusher and crushing over at the fuel depot, and I kinda trying to make more room at the shop to put gravel and white rock and get rid of our junk concrete pile, maybe move it all over to the fuel depot if we can. We get a little bit there, we'll just relocate it there and have Murphy crush it.
Good. things are moving then.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Well,
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a good Fourth.
Dave? Yep.
Well, you guys have a good Fourth too, huh? Good.
Okay, next we have is discuss Fricky Building utilities. Courtney?
Well, what do you want to begin?
What's the issue now?
I'm gonna pass around, this is just a, kind of a spreadsheet of how the bills are currently split. I'll give you guys an idea of how they do it now. There's been some talk about it not being fair, and we're talking only about the lower level here. DHS pays a portion, and that has not been. There's been no comment on that, it's just on the lower level. So, it's kind of a bookkeeping, I'm not gonna say nightmare, but it's a bookkeeping hassle, the way it's done now, and, there was some talk of maybe just paying it out of the same line that, like, the courthouse utilities are paid out of. Also, Suite B, which is vacant right now, is paid out of that line as well. Currently, Rosie, Megan, and Louie split utilities, and they're paid out of their budgets at this time. They're all coming, everything comes out of the general fund. But there was some talk of maybe just doing the utilities, which would amount to, you know, your water, trash, gas, electric, instead of splitting it 3 ways, of just paying it out of there. What we would do then is go into each of those departments, and whatever they budgeted for utilities, we would take that away from them and put that into the line that we were gonna be paying it out of. So their budgets would be reduced with whatever they budgeted utilities for. That was just one recommendation. Another one was, let's go over there and see what everybody's using and come up with new percentages, instead of it getting split a bunch of different ways, and with 2.5, you know, let's make it 25%, 30%, you know, let's make it a little easier and make sure that everybody's paying their fair share, if that's the way we wanna do it, so.
But isn't the point now that the person that's kind of raised the question is one that's got the more space and thinks somebody else should be paying more on a number basis?
That's what was brought to me,
And-
yes.
And I think,
I don't know that it's very equal right now.
no,
So-
but I think that Courtney showed me this, and I think for her benefit, you know, this takes them a long time to figure out that bill.
It does. You know, and there's some concerns about how much, you know, if somebody would come and say, hey, let's find out what it costs the county to have general assistance over there. If you knew what the square footage that Rosie was using, you could go and look and see what the bills were over the last 6 months and do the calculation. Either way, you're gonna have to look it up. Whether you split it from the get-go, or,
After the fact.
I don't know, I mean, what are the odds of wanting to know that? I don't know. I mean, I haven't had a lot of people ask me, you know, what's it cost to have the treasurer's office in here? You know, it's just, we have it. This is part of the courthouse, so. But, I mean, it would be doable to do it later, you know, if somebody would have a question and say, you know, what do you think the VA's cost, you know, the utilities over there for the VA are, we could probably figure that out pretty quickly. But anyway, that was what was brought up, so I thought, I'd let the board decide since
And
it's your building.
Your recommendation would be to just do
My
like we do
recommendation would
town
just be to pay it all out of,
General.
well, the maintenance line, and then, do it that way. Let them be responsible for their own internet and phones, like they are now. Those are already split, is my understanding. Their phones are, the internet's another subject, but, they could deal with that with Carl. This would just be for utilities.
I would prefer, well, I like you to simplify it somewhat, just to, there's no profit in accounting. But I think it's good that it's attributed to that building or to that, maybe I would be more in favor of changing it to a flat rate for them, so that when we have Veterans Affairs, when we look at their budget, we have the budgeted utilities right in there, and it's realized as their cost, as opposed to it not being in their budget and getting paid by the it's gonna get all come out of the same fund in the end, I realize that. But to take it out of their budget and just pay it off to the side is not gonna make any money difference, but it will be less accurate when you look at their budget. I mean, otherwise, if you do that, just take it out and just pay it out of the general fund without running it through their budget, it's giving you an unfair picture of what their costs are. And I think we need to have a little more fair picture of what the entity's costs are. And to help Courtney out, I would be in favor of just determining what it would be on a flat rate and flat rating it out. So it'd be a little less accurate, but
It would be something.
it'd be better than just
Then we would be
taking it out.
splitting
But,
it
Neil,
4 ways.
But we don't do that in this office, in this building.
in the court. No, but we do it as courthouse as a whole, but it's combining, then you'd be combining that building almost with the courthouse.
Well, you'd still keep the building
Pretty
separate,
much,
wouldn't you?
so-
Well, it's on the same line, it's in the same line, but they're entered separately, yes.
So you'd be able-
All the Fricky Buildings expenditures say Fricky Building. So when you go and look,
So-
you can pull those apart. I guess if that was the way it needed to be done, I'm totally fine with that. I would just like to know what percentages we should use. Because we're gonna have to split it, basically, some of them will be 5 ways, because we'll have DHS in there. DHS already has a percentage of 52 point whatever, I'm not proposing we change theirs,
Right.
because they haven't done anything different up there. But maybe down below, and I don't know who wants to do it, if I need to have Zach do it. He needs to go in there and do some measuring and come up with,
By the
Well,
square
and
foot.
Then you've got the commons there.
Right. It's,
yeah.
Then you got the commons there.
it's not a big deal for me either way, you know, if we just pay it out of general fund and never see it in their budget again, we can do that. I just thought this board might want to have a little bit of a pulse on what the real cost is of having them over there. And if it's in their budget one way or another, it would make that a little more meaningful.
Well, you know, we really need to determine what that flat rate is by square footage if we plan to rent any space out,
Right.
right? So we need to know that anyway. And so we can always refer to that number if we want to quantify any,
Okay.
what
And as far as the
Veterans
common
Affairs
areas,
is, you know,
As far as the common areas, those would have to be split
by everybody.
equally.
Yeah.
Because anybody would have equal access to them.
So it's, the bottom line for me, it's not a big deal. It's gonna cost the same amount of money no matter which way we go. I just think it's a little better management to have it accounted for in their budgets as opposed to having it out of sight, out of mind and getting paid by, out of the general fund. So whatever the wishes of the board is, pretty flexible here.
Well, I like the idea of simplifying it for you, you know, and just, and I get your point, Neil, as
Well,
far
and
as
it-
computing that. You know, I still say that, you know, at some point in time, if we plan on renting it, we're gonna have to have a number anyway.
Well,
And
for
so-
them people, because we'll have to add it into their rep.
Right. What's the easiest for you?
Well, that would be just paying it.
Yeah.
Um,
Just period.
Yeah.
There's trade-off.
Yeah.
The only thing is if you would want to know in the future what the cost of the VA would be, I mean, you could do the math. You'd have to just go back and see what you paid for Suite B and figure out what percentage you wanted to charge the VA, and that's what their utilities would have been. But it's more work either way. You know, you're either gonna have the work every single month, splitting it out, or you could have the work maybe once a year if you wanted to know for sure. And, you know, and you could build those departments too, you know, at the end of the year for their utilities, if you wanted it to come out of their budget. But,
Question. If we would decide to take the easy route on accounting, pay it out of general fund, we've already approved their budget for this year with utilities in it. do we decrease their budget, or we just tell them, expect them to have that much more money left over? We've lost control of some money there.
My and I talked to Megan and
You do
Louie.
budget amendment.
I didn't talk to Rosie. I said, when we do the next budget amendment, would you be opposed to us reducing your utilities because you're not gonna be paying them? And both of them said, we have no issue with that.
All right, that's, if we go that rate, which is not my number one choice, I would want to amend their budget, so it's just gonna get evaporated over there. It'd be too easy to happen.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking that question,
Yep.
Courtney.
Yeah, you had told me that too, you just want to amend their budget and reduce it, and I think that's
Yeah.
fair.
DHS, it was, what, 52%?
52.1.
They have just the top floor?
Top floor.
They don't have anything at the bottom?
They have a little bit of storage, I think, but
Okay. That's good.
nothing.
I wonder where the 2%'s coming from, because that.
Yeah, I think
So
it's
didn't
probably
see.
the little storage room. And I don't know who came up with these,
Okay.
but being it's the state, I think
I
it's
think
easier
for
just
as
to
often
leave
as
it.
we're gonna need to know on that other information, we can always figure it up if we have to.
Yeah.
I was gonna see it done the simplest for you. And the other reason I'm saying that way is because then it stops. Frickin' possibility. You know, someone arguing about it.
If we rent this next one, we're just gonna, it's going to be a flat fee for the
Yeah.
office, period, no utilities. Is that what you're saying?
It'll be
Well,
included in the rent.
Yeah.
Be included in
Be
there.
included.
I would like to visit about that when we get done with the utilities part here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a,
Yeah, I suppose you could do it that way, or you could bill that entity every quarter for whatever the costs were.
A determined amount.
Yeah. Kind of like Mallard View did for the home care aides. You know, they were out there in the basement, Mallard View would send them their portion of the bill. I think it was every quarter or whatever.
my only concern is with kind of a little bit towards Neil, I just don't want to leave that money sitting in the budget and we wind up with a new copier we don't need and
No,
those kind of things.
I agree with you there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's much simpler on Courtney to do it this way.
Well, and a lot of it, I mean, I wouldn't have probably brought it up, but there was some issues over there with people not thinking that they were paying their fair share. So there was a little bit of, I'm not gonna say arguing, but just a little stress over there. And if that can maybe
Yeah.
alleviate some of that and allow people to work and not have to worry about how they're splitting bills, that was part of
Yeah.
the reason too.
Move on to something else then.
Right.
Yeah.
Since it all gets paid out of the same general fund anyway, so.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead with the easiest route for Courtney.
Oh, I'm not gonna write it that way.
Well, okay. Let's
To
put
directly paid out of the general fund? you
General
mean?
fund, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that.
Not splitting it
Have them
up.
all paid out of the general fund and not split.
I expect that.
And to amend their budget.
And to amend the budget to reduce their expenses.
I'll second that motion.
Been moved in second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried.
While we're on the subject to Mallard View, we are getting absolutely,
Mallard View?
or excuse me, yeah,
Fricky
let me
building.
let me move. Let's shift over to the Fricky building.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, yeah. In regards to Fricky building, we are getting no or very little exposure as far as our empty office space there. And I just want to address that, and I would like to get it relisted with a realtor so that they can go out there, advertise it. And we can go about this either way. I know we took bids at one time. We had a successful person. I could ask if they would like to re-up it at the same rate, or you could put it out for bids again, which is not that big of a deal, that they're too interested in bidding on it. But I just want a realtor to get this in their portfolio, so it gets a little advertisement, so anyone who's looking for something like that will at least know about it.
You had somebody that was interested, they're not interested anymore.
No, they want, where they are now is free So they
Oh.
were wanting something really cheaper
Closer to
than
free,
what
huh?
Yeah, closer to free. And so, yeah, it
I
would have
wouldn't be,
been a
I
very.
wouldn't be looking very hard if I got it for free.
They are not real hard. And
Unless
our,
it was a 10.
the location and the accessibility of what we have here would have been an advantage. but
Oh,
they were
improvement.
Not willing to pay pennies on it.
Oh, I agree with that, Neil. I think it's
Neil, I
time
have
we
no
get it.
problem. If you
Yeah.
want to go back to that same one, and see if you get the same rate.
If that's okay, I'll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was bid on in the first place, and we just let it expire.
Yep.
Because of the transition of things. But I'll be glad to do that then, and
Okay.
get back to you guys on what the results were.
Okay. Committee reports. Dean?
I really didn't have much last week, just had the pictometry training. I thought it was very helpful. I think we got a really good thing there. Rich was there, and you can go to Google Earth and you can look down on the top of a building, but with this, you can go around the whole building and you get the oblique point of view. I think what was that church that he pointed out? That was probably
Yeah.
the most unique,
Yeah.
he gave a picture of the top view of a church, and he said, well, what kind of building is that? And it's pretty hard to tell, and Rich, I think he was the one that
But
picked up on it.
We came up that it was a church, but the real interesting part
Yeah.
was, we thought it was a parking lot beside it, and it was just, another
It was a
story
flat roof.
building, but
It was a
just so
flat roof, so
And there
that
was
when you do
one-
the oblique
one
part of it, well, then you see that parking lot's got windows on it.
Yeah. It's like, I would
You know,
never
so
have guessed that.
I would have never guessed that, so,
It was a ramp.
Drive-in.
yeah.
parking ramp. Yeah.
So,
But the way to get to it.
it's a really good thing, and I'm glad I went. I'm gonna certainly use it. I've got some questions on it yet from Carl, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing for everybody involved, especially, the fire departments and the service agencies in the county. Glad I went. I don't have anything this week, and that was my week.
Neil?
Monday afternoon, had a meeting in Sac City with Rolling Hills Community Services Region. We formally approved several of our fiscal year 18 provider contracts with entities such as Genesis, Wesco, Season Center, Plains area. We also had a discussion about county office expense. We're being reimbursed here for the area occupied by general assistance. No other county is getting reimbursed at all, so the discussion was that, as a matter of fairness, either all the counties should get reimbursed or none of them, and we decided that none of us would get reimbursed. And it's not too bad of a deal for Carroll County, because some of the other counties are providing quite a bit more than what we are. And we're glad to have that service in our county, and we had that discussion before now. We're also required to have a community services plan, and that is primarily why Dawn didn't come here to do her annual report, because they're really working hard on that. We're going to entail Jeffrey Schatz out of the University of Iowa to come out a couple times, having their first meeting on August 3rd, but it's quite an undertaking, this community service plan and development process, so that's a big deal that our employees are going to be working on, something that's required by the legislature, Senate File 504. We had a lady come in from Sarah Lupus from the Polk County Health Services, talk about pay for performance and outcomes. It's called value-based contracting. Want us to sell us on doing the contracting in that perspective. It's kind of there's the block grant, then there's the fee for service, and this is kind of a step up from that, as she explained it. And before she got too far into it, I said, Sarah, I have little bit of a prejudice here, and I don't want it just to ruminate in my mind. I want you to explain it. We're doing very well financially here with our region. There's some things they want us to do. They want us to combine and become bigger so we get the economy of scale. One of the issues is that you have more counties and you have less flexibility. You're from Polk County. You've got the best of everything. You have no other counties making decisions for you. You don't make all your decisions on your own. You got the most people. You got the economy scale. You have the biggest financial problems of any region in the state. You're coming here to tell us how to run business. Can you explain that to me? Well, she had several reasonings, how their population change is giving them less money to work with a growing population and things like that. But she fully realized what I said, and she took it very well. I
Could have added one more, and they got an additional $2 million from the state that nobody else gets.
I know it. And no, I did, and I said, and I know you've got additional funding that, to account for this that we haven't got. So, anyhow, so she went ahead with her, she justified it the best she could, and she said, yeah, I realize we got some other issues in it, but this is a different subject and everything. But I'm glad I brought it up, and so is everyone else. And so she went ahead and explained what the pay for performance and outcomes was. It's basically where different services providers have more of a fee for service as opposed to block grant, and if they meet certain indicators that they would get paid a bonus. And what troubled me more than anything was one of our service providers says, well, can you give me an example of what a service is, what their level they have to reach to get incentives are, and what that incentive amount was, and she couldn't specifically answer that. So that troubled me. And another question that was brought up was, let us say it's an employment agency that employs, say, mentally handicapped people and finds employment. The question was, well, okay, but there's so many things outside of the service agency's control. What if the economy changes? More jobs are available, less jobs are available. They could be doing the same quality or quantity of work, but getting a totally different response depending on service, situations way beyond their control. And there's some other examples too. What if there's a big flux or exodus of a big group of people or an ethnic people or whatever? And she says, well, you just have to deal with that. Well, that kind of makes a difference. So it's something we're going to look at, and maybe we will find some places where pay for performance and outcomes will work, but I think we all agreed it isn't something you just want to do a blanket deal on for everybody. It just isn't, but there may be some places for it, so she gave a good presentation, and we'll look at that. So a lot of time was spent on that. And that was about it. It wasn't a real long meeting, but we spent a lot of time on that and some of our new contracts that we approved. And we didn't set our next meeting date. And then Gene had a question, and did you get my email on the second question? Yeah.
The only reason I'm running that through you, Neil, because you're working with that.
That's fine. Gene had a question. Apparently, the specific question was, someone gets transported from St. Anthony's Hospital to the Crisis Center in Sac City. Who pays for the transportation? In our contract with Plains should pay for that. So then Gene comes back with another question. What if they're going to a different mental health? And so I emailed that question to Dawn to get her professional response, and I blind copied you on that. And I just sent it out Sunday morning, so I haven't heard back yet.
And I do have another question here now.
I should give you her email and you just go direct.
No, not for,
Yeah.
not on her.
All right.
What is the status with Plains Mental Health as far as the director? Have you got somebody yet?
They're looking for a new director. They have an acting director now. Patrick is, I don't know if he's moved yet or not, but Patrick is going to be a Jayhawk. He's going to Kansas. So we wish him well. So they have not hired a new
That's what I was wanting.
new director to replace Patrick. No.
Okay. All right. Rich?
I liked late last week, pictometry was the only thing, and and true with what Dean said, I really enjoyed it. It looks like I'm glad we have the service. I think that's something I think we should continue to always fund, because one of the things I think I picked up on was the fire at a building, and it just happened to be over on a fly date, and they had a picture of it, and so they have proof of it. And the fire department was being dispatched to it. Well, the dispatcher said the smoke was blah, blah, blah. There was a fuel tank on the north side where the smoke was covering it up. And it was an advantage, because he could look at it and say, hey, there's not only 2 fuel tanks on this side of the building, there's one on this side. You need to watch out for that. Well, they would not have known it when they approached the fire. Gave them a little heads up when they got there or before they got there, so how to set up and attack it. And I think those are the kind of invaluable things that you do pick up out of it. The assessor's office looks like it's a great tool for them, and they could do a lot of site visits without leaving their chair, basically. Finds things inside of the wooded timber areas where we don't have a lot of that, but I can see a lot of counties being a big plus. I had a little thought maybe that, and we'll see how this plays out, but now these the water management areas we're getting into, whether this could be a tool that we can open up and let that whole group look at our elevation in all of our counties, so when they're going to spend some of the money, they have better information to say, no, this is the grade, this is the timber, this is flat land. They, you're sitting there talking about, when you're talking about 9 or 10 counties, you have to be pretty versed on whether they're flat, hilly, what they are.
But they've got a lot of that already, though, with the floodplain maps.
Floodplain maps
Yeah.
and LiDAR.
LiDAR, with their LiDAR, yeah.
But this is always something, that.
Another tool, though.
Another tool to add to the equation, that they could look up the information, and it's a great deal. This week, I have nothing in front of me, so I have another light week this week.
Marty?
Last Wednesday, signed checks at Region 12. Then on Friday, I got a call from a landowner that we put some culverts in secondary roads, did on 230th and off of Mahogany to the west, and I get a call from one of the landowners about the how it was placed. So this week I'm gonna go with Dave, take a look at it. And that's basically all I had this week, just going to look at that culvert with Dave. So
I actually wasn't done myself either, Gene. I actually wasn't done with my committee reports either. I also had a meeting on Friday with the foster grandparent and RSVP directors concerning their advertising for new foster grandparent, switching some people around. I also signed checks there on Friday, and I do not have any meetings scheduled yet for this week. I talked long enough that I should have been done, Gene, so I grant you that.
I apologize, I didn't mean
No.
to. Okay, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
I cut you off.
Well, it sounds like, unfortunately, I was not able to meet pictometry because Tuesday I wound up everything getting doubled up here, but as I mentioned, I had that exit interview with the auditors, and then after that I went to CADC at noon. We basically went over the Access Washington trip, what everybody's take on and what we did and how they felt the trip went. There was a discussion in regard to the city was looking at the housing thing with the people that did that study. We had a little discussion on that. They're talking about doing business visits again. One other thing is there's going to be an employee summit coming up October 4th in Denison. And then we talked about a program called Cultivation Quarter. It's using the program from other communities here, and basically we'll look at quarters of areas where they do improvements and stuff like that. Then on Thursday got to be the busy day. At 2:30 I had a new board orientation for new opportunities, and we went through, we got several new board members there. Particularly, we've got in Carroll County, Jeff Kaler and Peggy Hamilton have joined that board. In Sac County, we have Terry Striger, joined the board up there, and then we have a Cindy Wallace that is, I think, gonna join. She just wanted to see, get her feet wet, see if it's something that was gonna fit, where she was gonna be able to have any decent input. And then in Dallas County, Tim Farmer, and then in Guthrie, Carolyn Masters. So we met with the majority of those, and also Carl Labor, which is a new member from Calhoun County. That's the board of supervisors that got on in January. So he hadn't been through any orientation, so we went with orientations with him also. And then at 3 o'clock, we had our meeting with all the board of directors, and when had our attorney there to go through what's your responsibilities, what your do's and don'ts, and go through all that, and your nepotism program, and all of that. And at 4 o'clock, we had our, I'm running out of gas here. 4 o'clock, we had our regular board meeting, and we did have a presentation for Joyce Miners, the RN at the WIC program. She was retiring after 39 years of service. We did approve the appointments to the new board, went through our financials, which were in good shape, and also approved our 990 for the year. Went through all the policy, Head Start policy stuff that I talked to you about last month. Went through that with the rest of the board. We did approve our community service block grant, CSBG application. That's for like $232,000, if I remember right. And then all the parts of the whole process, the executive summary, planning, and achievement of results, and evaluation of national performance standards. Then we went and we did change our human resource policies and procedures in regard to vacation policy about allowing Ontario an additional week over. Talked about the WIC RFP. We did lose Dallas County to Broadlands Hospital in Des Moines. They've got that. We did have in a report that we did get a financial literacy grant award from Northwest Area Foundation, and that is for a 2-year program for $105,000 the first year and $103,000 for the next year, and that will help us fund doing more of our literacy programs as far as families doing their budgets and stuff like that. Did get a report that IDPH did give us a 3-year license fee for our treatment program, and had copies of our audit from the family state agency child and adult food program. Got raving reviews on that. So that was that Thursday. And then they're working on this issue with the place for the gravel. And then this week, I just like the rest of these, have a light week. So. Any comments, or Courtney, do you have anything else? Any comments from those in attendance? If not, we're in order for a motion to adjourn.
What does the next week look like?
Next week, we have the hearing for the vacation of the plat. If you guys remember that? It's been a while.
St. Anthony's.
Yeah, St. Anthony's. And we'll approve salaries for fiscal 18. The plat is that Sorensen plat.
Oh, sure.
And it's also a bill day.
Bill day, too.
Okay. Okay, we're in order for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion carried.